Adiabene was a metropolitan province of the Assyrian Church of the East between the 5th and 14th centuries, with more than 15 known suffragan dioceses at different periods in its history. Although the name Hadyab normally connoted the region around Erbil and Mosul, the boundaries of the East Syrian metropolitan province went well beyond the Erbil and Mosul districts. Its known suffragan dioceses included Beth Bgash and Adarbaigan, well to the east of Adiabene proper. Ecclesiastical history. The Bishop of Erbil became Metropolitan of Adiabene in 410, responsible also for the 6 suffragan dioceses of Beth Nuhadra, Beth Bgash, Beth Dason, Ramonan, Beth Market and Dabrin. Bishops of the dioceses of Beth Nuhadra, Beth Bgash and Beth Dason, which covered the modern Ahmadiyya and Haqqari regions, were present at most of the early synods, and these 3 dioceses continued without interruption into the 13th century. The other 3 dioceses are not mentioned again, and have been tentatively identified with 3 dioceses better known under other names. Ramonan with Shana de Beth Raman in Beth Arameh, on the Tigris near its junction with the Great Zab. Beth Market with Beth Kadu in the Nisibis region, across the Tigris from the district of Beth Zabdi, and Dabran with Tirin, a district of Beth Arameh which lay between the Tigris and the Jabal Hamran, to the southwest of Beth Gamai. By the middle of the 6th century there were also dioceses in the province of Adiabene for Ma'ulda and Ma'ulda, a town in the Nether district to the east of Aqra, and for Nineveh. The diocese of Ma'ulda is first mentioned in 497, and the diocese of Nineveh in 554, and bishops of both dioceses attended most of the later synods. Erbil, the chief town of Adiabene, lost much of its former importance with the growth of the city of Mosul, and during the reign of the Patriarch Timothy I, the seat of the metropolitans of Adiabene was moved to Mosul. The dioceses of Adiabene were governed by a metropolitan of Mosul and Erbil for the next 4.5 centuries. Around 1200, Mosul and Erbil became separate metropolitan provinces. The last known metropolitan of Mosul and Erbil was Titos, who was appointed by Elia III. Thereafter separate metropolitan bishops for Mosul and for Erbil are recorded in a fairly complete series from 1210 to 1318. 5 new dioceses in the province of Mosul and Erbil were established during the Umayyad and Abbasid periods: Marga, Salak, Haditha, Taimana and Hattin. The dioceses of Marga and Salak, covering the districts around Ahmadiyya and Aqra, are first mentioned in the 8th century but may have been created earlier, perhaps in response to West Syrian competition in the Mosul region in the 7th century. The diocese of Marga persisted into the 14th century, but the diocese of Salak is last mentioned in the 9th century. By the 8th century there was also an East Syrian diocese for the town of Hdata on the Tigris, which persisted into the 14th century. The diocese of Taimana, which embraced the district south of the Tigris in the vicinity of Mosul and included the monastery of Marmiki, is attested between the 8th and 10th centuries, but does not seem to have persisted into the 13th century. A number of East Syrian bishops are attested between the 8th and 13th centuries for the diocese of Hattin, a region of northwest Adiabene to the south of the Great Zab, adjacent to the district of Marga. It is not clear when the diocese was created, but it is first mentioned under the name Nether and Hattin in 790. Nether was another name for the diocese of Ma'ulda, and the Patriarch Timothy I is said to have united the dioceses of Hattin and Nether in order to punish the presumption of the bishop Rustam of Nether, who had opposed his election. The union was not permanent, and by the 11th century Hattin and Ma'ulda were again separate dioceses. Bishops of Adarbaigan, a diocese centered on the town of Ganzak and bounded on the west by the Salmas and Urmi plains and on the east by the Caspian Sea, were present at most of the 5th century synods, but Adarbaigan was not among the dioceses assigned to a metropolitan province in 410. By the 8th century it was part of the metropolitan province of Adiabene. At the beginning of the 13th century there were at least 8 suffragan dioceses in the provinces of Mosul and Erbil, Haditha, Ma'alda, Hetan, Beth Bgash, Dasan, Beth Nuhadra, Marga and Urmi. The diocese of Hetan is last mentioned in 1257, when its bishop Gabriel attended the consecration of the Patriarch Makika II. The diocese of Dasan definitely persisted into the 14th century, as did the diocese of Marga, though it was renamed Tella and Barbeli in the second half of the 13th century. It is possible that the dioceses of Beth Nuhadra, Beth Bgash and Haditha also survived into the 14th century. Haditha, indeed, is mentioned as a diocese at the beginning of the 14th century by Abdasho of Nisibis. Urmi too, although none of its bishops are known, may also have persisted as a diocese into the 16th century, when it again appears as the seat of an East Syrian bishop. The diocese of Ma'alda is last mentioned in 1281, but probably persisted into the 14th century under the name Nitha. The bishop Abdasho of Nitha, attested in 1310 and 1318, was almost certainly a bishop of the diocese formerly known as Ma'alda. Dioceses in the Erbil region. The Diocese of Erbil, according to the Chronicle of Erbil, a history of Christianity in Adiabene under the Parthians and Sasanians, purportedly written by the 6th century East Syrian author Mshzkha. A diocese was established for Erbil at the beginning of the 2nd century. The Chronicle describes the careers of 20 bishops of Erbil between the 2nd and 6th centuries and provides precise reign dates for each of them. According to the Chronicle, the early bishops of Erbil were Pakida, Samson, Isaac, Abraham, Nuh, Habel, Abdamshir, Hiram, Shalufa, Ahadabui, Shria, Yohanan, Abraham, Miran, Zkha, Shub, Elisho, Daniel, Rima, Abushta, Joseph and Anna. The authenticity of the Chronicle of Erbil has been questioned, and scholars remain divided on how much credence to place in its evidence. Some of the bishops mentioned in the Chronicle of Erbil, particularly those from the 4th century onwards, are attested in other sources, but the early bishops are probably legendary. The Metropolitan Daniel of Adiabene was present at the Synod of Isaac in 410 and subscribed to its acts. He was also among the signatories of the Acts of the Synod of Dardasho in 424. Towards the end of the 5th century, Adiabene had 2 metropolitans. The Bishop Joseph, Bishop of Erbil, Metropolitan of Adiabene, was among the signatories of the Acts of the Synod of Babai in 497, and the Secretary Sigur assigned the Acts of the same synod on behalf of the Bishop Abushta, Metropolitan of Adiabene. The Metropolitan Nana of Adiabene was among the signatories of the Acts of the Synod of Abarai in 544. The Metropolitan Shaba of Adiabene was among the signatories of the Acts of the Synod of Joseph in 554. The Metropolitan Nana of Adiabene was among the signatories of the Acts of the Synod of Ezekiel in 576. The priest and Archdeacon Barabba was among the signatories of the Acts of the Synod of Isho-Yhbi in 585. On behalf of the Metropolitan Nana, Metropolitan of the Athore, probably the same man, the Metropolitan Yonadab of Adiabene was among the signatories of the Acts of the Synod of Gregory in 605. The Patriarch Isho-Yhb III of Adiabene was Metropolitan of Adiabene from 637 to 649. The Metropolitan Yohanan of Adiabene flourished in the first half of the 8th century. The nephew of the celebrated East Syrian writers Ninisho and Isho-Yhb of Bethabe, Yohanan was formerly a monk of the monastery of Bethabe, later its superior and later still bishop of Beth Bgash. He was consecrated Metropolitan of Adiabene by the Patriarchs Bth and died during the reign of the Patriarch Marabba II. The Metropolitan of Adiabene flourished around the middle of the 8th century. Originally a monk of the monastery of Beth Bgash, he later became its superior. He was appointed Metropolitan of Adiabene by the Patriarch Abba II on the death of the Metropolitan Yohanan. During his metropolitanate he consecrated the bishops Sargus of Ma'alda and Nether and Miran Amma of Salih. The Metropolitan Miran Amma of Adiabene flourished during the third quarter of the 8th century. An ascetic from the town of Htara in the Syrian district, he studied in his youth under Rabban Babayan built and later opened a school in the Erbil village of Kfar Mosul, where he taught for many years. In his late middle age, during the reign of the Patriarch Abba II, he was consecrated Bishop of Salih by the Metropolitan of Adiabene. He was appointed Metropolitan of Adiabene by the Patriarch Yaqub II on Ah's death. He died of sickness and extreme old age shortly after the accession of Timothy I in 780 in the village of Beth Bgash, and his body was buried in the village's church. Thomas of Marga devoted the entire third book of his Book of Governors to Miran Amma's life and work. The Metropolitan Ishoyhb of Adiabene was consecrated by the Patriarch Timothy I shortly after his election in 780. On the death of the Metropolitan Miran Amma, Ishoyhb, the elderly superior of the monastery of Beth Bgash, had originally intended to contest the 780 patriarchal election and was widely expected to win it. His rival Timothy, then Bishop of Beth Bgash, persuaded him to withdraw his candidacy on the grounds of old age, and promised to appoint him Metropolitan of Adiabene if he became Patriarch himself. Erbil, the chief town of Adiabene, lost much of its former importance with the growth of the city of Mosul, and during the reign of the Patriarch Timothy I the seat of the metropolitans of Adiabene was moved to Mosul. The dioceses of Adiabene were governed by a Metropolitan of Mosul and Erbil for the next 4.5 centuries. Around 1200, Mosul and Erbil became separate metropolitan provinces. The last known Metropolitan of Mosul and Erbil was Titos, who was appointed by Elia III. Thereafter separate metropolitan bishops for Mosul and for Erbil are recorded in a fairly complete series from 1210 to 1318. The Metropolitan Sabrisho ibn Qayyoma of Hazar and Erbil was present at the consecration of the Patriarch Sabrisho IV in 1222. The Metropolitan Dena of Erbil was present at the consecration of the Patriarch Makika II in 1257. The Metropolitan Mush of Erbil was present at the consecration of the Patriarch Yabul III in 1281. The Metropolitan Joseph of Erbil became Patriarch in 1318, taking the name Timothy II. According to Abdasho of Nisibis, he was originally Metropolitan of Mosul, and was transferred to the Diocese of Erbil upon the death of its Metropolitan Abraham. The Diocese of Ramonan. The Bishop Akbar of Ramonan was confirmed as a suffragan bishop of the Metropolitan Daniel of Adiabene in Canon 21 of the Synod of Isaac in 410. The Diocese of Dabrin. The Bishop Nuho of the Fortress of Dabrin was confirmed as a suffragan bishop of the Metropolitan Daniel of Adiabene in Canon 21 of the Synod of Isaac in 410. The Diocese of Ma'alda and Nether. The Bishop Yohanan of Ma'alda was among the signatories of the Acts of the Synod of Babai in 497. The Bishop Shimon of Ma'alda was among the signatories of the Acts of the Synod of Marabba in 544. The Bishop Yazdpana of Ma'alda was among the signatories of the Acts of the Synod of Joseph in 554. The Bishop Belshazzar of Ma'alda was among the signatories of the Acts of the Synods of Ezekiel in 576 and Isho-Yhbi in 585. The Bishop Clilisho of Ma'alda was among the signatories of the Acts of the Synod of Gregory in 605. The Bishop Dindo-Wyo of Ma'alda and Nether, formerly a monk of the monastery of Bethab, was appointed by the metropolitan Yohanan of Adiabene at an unknown date in the first half of the 8th century. After his death he was buried in the monastery of Bethab. The Bishop Sargis of Ma'alda and Nether, formerly a monk of the monastery of Bethab, was appointed around the middle of the 8th century by the metropolitan of Adiabene after the death of Dindo-Wyo. Sargis abandoned his diocese in the wake of a raid on the Nether district by the Dalamay and took refuge in the monastery of Bethab, where he remained until his death. Like his predecessor, he was buried in the monastery. Thomas of Marga considered his flight from his diocese discreditable, and remarked that he had failed to live up to the hopes that had been placed in him. The Bishop Yohanan ibn Boktasho of Ma'alda was appointed Metropolitan of Mosul by the Patriarch Yohanan III immediately after his consecration, on the 15th of July 893. The Bishop Yohanan of Ma'alda was present at the consecration of the Patriarch Abdasho II in 1074. The Bishop Kyriakos of Ma'alda was present at the consecration of the Patriarch Makikarai in 1092. The Bishop Abdasho of Ma'alda was present at the consecration of the Patriarch Denai in 1265. The Bishop Gawagas of Ma'alda was present at the consecration of the Patriarch Yabul-Ahal III in 1281. The Bishop Abdasho of Nether was present at the consecration of the Patriarch Timothy II in 1318. The Diocese of Hetin. The Bishop David of Nether and Hetin was among the bishops who witnessed a retraction of the Messalian heresy made by the priest Nestorius of the monastery of Mar Yozadak in 790 before his consecration as Bishop of Beth Nuhadra. The monk Dinar Maran of the monastery of Beth Qoqa was consecrated Bishop of Hetin at an unknown date in the first half of the 9th century. An unperfected Bishop of Hetin, whose name is not mentioned, accompanied the Metropolitan of Mosul to the consecration of the Patriarch Eliah I in 1028, and was perfected by the Patriarch immediately after his consecration. The Bishop Mark of Hetin, in the province of Mosul, was present at the consecration of the Patriarch Abdasho II in 1074, accompanied by a Bishop of Ma'alda. The Metropolitan Yohanan of Damascus was deposed at an unknown date during the reign of the same Patriarch, and Mark was appointed Metropolitan of Damascus in his place. The Bishop Sabrisha of Hetin was present at the consecration of the Patriarch Makikarai in 1092. An unnamed and unperfected Bishop of Hetin, in the province of Mosul, was present at the consecration of the Patriarch Abdasho III in 1139. The Bishop Gabriel of Hetin was present at the consecration of the Patriarch Makika II in 1257. The Diocese of Haditha. The Bishop Schliemann of Hdata was one of the bishops who opposed the election of the Patriarch Timothy I in 780. The Patriarch Abraham of Marga was originally an archimandrite in the monastery of Bethab, and later Bishop of Hdata. The Bishop Isho-Yhbi of Haditha was appointed Metropolitan of Mosul during the reign of the Patriarch Mari. An unnamed and unperfected Bishop of Haditha was present at the consecration of the Patriarch Abdasho II in 1074. The Bishop David of Haditha was consecrated Metropolitan of Beth Bgash during the reign of the Patriarch Abdasho II. The Bishop Abdasho of Haditha was present at the consecration of the Patriarch Makikarai in 1092. the diocese of Al-Baria, an unnamed bishop of Al-Baria, a diocese not otherwise attested, accompanied the metropolitan of Mosul to the consecration of the Patriarch Eliya I in 1028. Dioceses in the Mosul region. The Diocese of Mosul Erbil, the chief town of Adiabene, lost much of its former importance with the growth of the city of Mosul, and during the reign of the Patriarch Timothy I, the seat of the metropolitans of Adiabene was moved to Mosul. The dioceses of Adiabene were governed by a metropolitan of Mosul and Erbil for the next 4.5 centuries. Around 1200, Mosul and Erbil became separate metropolitan provinces. The last known metropolitan of Mosul and Erbil was Titos, who was appointed by Eliya III. Thereafter, separate metropolitan bishops for Mosul and for Erbil are recorded in a fairly complete series from 1210 to 1318. The metropolitan Nestorius of Athor was among the bishops who witnessed a retraction of the Messalian heresy made by the priest Nestorius of the monastery of Mar Yozadak in 790 before his consecration as bishop of Beth Nuhadra. The future patriarch Enosh was appointed metropolitan of Mosul by the patriarch Sargus. The bishop Yohanan ibn Bakhtasho of Mar Alda was appointed metropolitan of Mosul by the patriarch Yohanan III immediately after his consecration, on the 15th of July 893. He was present at the consecration of the Patriarch Yohanan IV in 900. The Metropolitan Luke of Mosul was one of only 2 metropolitans present at the consecration of the Patriarch Emmanuel I on the 23rd of February 938. Because many metropolitans objected, the Metropolitan Guagus Bartobi was appointed by the Patriarch Emmanuel I, and was an unsuccessful candidate in the patriarchal elections of 960, 963 and 987. He was also one of 3 metropolitans who were present at the consecration of the Patriarch Israel in 961. According to Amra and Sliba, he was also present at the consecration of the Patriarch Mari on the 10th of April 987. According to Mari, however, the diocese of Mosul was vacant at the end of the reign of the Patriarch Abdashoi. The bishop Ishoi of Haditha was appointed metropolitan of Mosul during the reign of the Patriarch Mari. The bishop Gabriel of Arzun was consecrated metropolitan of Erbil and Athor by the Patriarch Yohanan VI on the 19th of November 1012, the day of his own consecration as Patriarch. The Metropolitan Eliya, metropolitan of Mosul, when Eliya Bar-Shana completed his chronography in 1018 was originally bishop of Peroz Shaba and later metropolitan of Damascus. He fled from Damascus to Baghdad because of a persecution directed against the Western Christians, and was subsequently elected metropolitan of Mosul. The bishop Ya'bullah ibn Abu Dara of Beth Nuhadra was consecrated metropolitan of Mosul by the Patriarch Sabrisho III shortly after his consecration in 1064. Following the death of the Metropolitan Gabriel of Mosul, he was present as Metropolitan of Hasa and Mosul at the consecration of the Patriarch Abdasho II in 1074. He died in 1085, and was replaced as Metropolitan of Mosul by the future Patriarch Makika ibn Suleiman, Bishop of Tiran. The Metropolitan Yohanan ibn al-Haddad of Mosul was present at the consecration of the Patriarch Sparsorma in 1134 and Abdasho III in 1139. The Metropolitan Joseph of Athor and Nineveh is mentioned together with the Patriarch Ya'bullah II in the colophon of an East Syrian manuscript of August 1189. The metropolitan Joseph of Mosul was present at the consecration of the Patriarch Sabrisho IV in 1222. The metropolitan Abdasho of Mosul was present at the consecration of the Patriarch Makika II in 1257. The metropolitan Shemon of Mosul was present at the consecration of the Patriarch Dena I in 1265. The metropolitan Gabriel of Mosul was present at the consecration of the Patriarch Yahb-ul-Ahal III in 1281. The metropolitan Shemon of Mosul was present at the consecration of the Patriarch Timothy II in 1318. The diocese of Taimana. The Bishop Mush of Taimana was among the bishops who witnessed a retraction of the Messalian heresy made by the priest Nestorius of the monastery of Mar Yozadak in 790 before his consecration as Bishop of Beth Nuhadra. The Diocese of Nineveh. The Bishop Ahudema of Nineveh was among the signatories of the Acts of the Synod of Joseph in 554. The Bishop Yazdpana of Nineveh was among the signatories of the Acts of the Synod of Ezekiel in 576. The Bishop Mar Abba of Nineveh was among the signatories of the Acts of the Synod of Isho-Yahbi in 585. The Patriarch Maremma was Bishop of Nineveh during the reign of the Patriarch Isho-Yahbi II, who consecrated him Metropolitan of Ilam. The Patriarch Isho-Yahbi III of Adiabene appears to have succeeded Maremma as Bishop of Nineveh, perhaps around 630. In 637 he was appointed Metropolitan of Erbil. The Bishop Mush of Nineveh was among the bishops present at the deathbed of the Patriarch Isho-Yahbi III in 659. The monk Kyriakos of Arwak, of the monastery of Beth-Abe, became Bishop of Nineveh at an unknown date in the second half of the 8th century or the first half of the 9th century.